What is national security? What does it mean? Because that's what TikTok is referencing in regards to banning all talk of bin Laden's letter to America. What does national security mean? Well, I'm sure this will come as no surprise to you, that the definition has expanded a bit. So let's go to the government's non-official website, Wikipedia, to look it up. The concept of national security remains ambiguous. Well, there you go. Does everyone know what ambiguous means? That means it's unable to be nailed down. It's not a very specific thing, but all things. Do you see what's happened to the United States of America? If you're a citizen of the United States of America, your rights don't exist. You have no rights. Any rights you think you have, you're lying to yourself. You don't have the freedom of free speech. You don't have the freedom to not support the actions of your government. Because if you support the resistance of your government's actions, then you are a national security risk and can be subject to law enforcement under the Patriot Act. You are a terrorist. What does terrorism mean? Terrorism, in its broadest sense, and this is from the Wikipedia as well, is the use of intentional violence and fear to achieve political or ideological aims. The term is used in this regard primarily to refer to intentional violence during peacetime or in the context of war against non-combatants. That's mostly civilians and neutral military personnel. The terms terrorist and terrorism originated during the French Revolution of the late 18th century, but became widely used internationally and gained worldwide attention in the 1970s during the Troubles in Northern Ireland, the Basque conflict, and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The increased use of suicide attacks from the 1980s onward was typified by the 2001 September 11th attacks in the United States. There are various different definitions of terrorism, with no universal agreement about it. Terrorism is a charged term. It is often used with the connotation of something that is morally wrong. Governments and non-state groups use the term to abuse or denounce opposing groups. Varied political organizations have been accused of using terrorism to achieve their objectives. These include left and right-wing political organizations, nationalist groups, religious groups, revolutionaries, and ruling governments. Well, I'm surprised that was included. Legislation declaring terrorism a crime has been adopted in many states. State terrorism is that perpetuated by nation states, but is not considered such by the state conducting it, making legality a gray area. Do you see what's happened? You are now past 1984, both figuratively and literally. It's all a gray area. All of it. Typically in America, if we have a gray area of legality, who decides? A jury, right? Right. What did organized crime members used to do to juries? They would intimidate or pay off to get a favorable ruling. What happens nowadays? Somebody's getting paid off, or pressured, bullied. Who's doing it? Who's manipulating public opinion? We're all idiots. This was inevitable. Absolutely inevitable. History is written by the winners. And as you can see, or maybe you can't, I don't know. The government has been systematically rewriting the internet, reshaping it to suit their narrative. They don't want you reading Osama bin Laden's letter. They'll erase it. Because the internet is the collective history more than anything else. Sure, people say it's a way for everyone to communicate, but it very quickly became, for lack of a better term, the Library of Alexandria. Times infinity. It's what everyone turns to answer any question they may have. Therefore, it is the universal library. It's where records are kept. No one keeps physical records anymore. So if someone can go in and just delete or rewrite history, what do narcissists do? They, first of all, control the lines of communication to the best of their abilities, and they rewrite history by gaslighting on a grand scale. The American citizenry is an abuse victim. We're all being abused by our malignant, narcissistic, Machiavellian boyfriend or girlfriend. Glenn Greenwald wants to know why no one protests. No one stands up and says, this isn't right. Besides very few. Why do you think that is? We know what happens when we try to stand up to our abuser. More abuse.